You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 189. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you're in the right place. Hello everybody and welcome back to the podcast. I am Anna, I am your host, and I help brilliant high achievers like you to drink less, whatever that means for you. Now today we're talking about a sneaky pattern that keeps so many people stuck. I read this a lot actually on message boards, and it comes up frequently with my lovely clients before we understand where it's coming from and how to change it. It is a sneaky pattern that is not about the wine. It is not about relying on willpower, which we know doesn't work. It's about a part of you that's sick of holding things together. This is the part of you that says, screw it at the end of the day, right? When you've had a tough day and you pour the wine, not because you're weak, but because you are tired of being good. Listen, the more you try to restrict, the more it starts to feel like everything fun is off limits, right? And the more tempting those things become. This episode is called The Rebel Response, and we're pulling apart the trap of rebelling against yourself. Now, we often say things like, look, Anna, I'm just a rebel. It's kind of like who I am. And we say this, I think, to try and make sense of our own behavior, especially when we're doing something we didn't actually want to do or didn't plan on doing. Saying this gives us a way, I think, to feel better about actions we are regretting or have regretted. But I want to ask, is that really who you are? Or is it just the only way you know how to break the pressure? So here's what I see time and time again. And this is often when people first come to me, this is how they show up, what they have been trying to do. Right? You try to be good, because you know you want to drink less wine, so we're going to try to be good at that. You set some rules, some pretty hard and fast rules, and you follow the rules. And then you slip up, or maybe even you just consider giving in and slipping up a little bit. And then suddenly that inner rebel kind of kicks off. Right? And when we do this, what happens is we drink. We do actually overdo it. You wake up the next day feeling guilty. So you then decide, I'm just going to double down on control. And you make a new set of rules, maybe even harsher than before. You tell yourself this time it'll be different. Maybe you plan more alcohol-free days this week than you've had for 3 years. And so it continues. But here's the truth. That rebel in you, she isn't fighting society. She isn't fighting what your friends say. She isn't fighting all those things. She's fighting you. Or if you're a bloke, he's fighting you, right? You are not rebelling against the society or your mum or some rule book that you read somewhere on some government site at how many units you should be consuming. You're rebelling against the part of you that is constantly pushing, constantly striving, constantly demanding something of yourself, right? You're rebelling against your own expectations. If you're a high achiever and you have your life together, this is likely how you will feel about yourself. I see this pattern again and again and again. Now, I want to offer, when you get into this kind of routine, this pattern, this way of being, it starts to feel like that there are two versions of you, right? There's the version of you who's trying to hold it all together, to be perfect, to be impressive, who wants to live up to the standards you've set for yourself. And then there's the version of you who shows up with drinking hand, right? The wild version, the free, unfiltered. This is who I am. This is when I let my hair down. And at some point, you likely think, I don't even know how these two people are the same person, right? I used to feel a lot like I was Jekyll and Hyde, so perfect in good and orderly and measured and professional and all those things in the day, and then just sort of abandoned when it got to 6 and I didn't have to feel like I was on, like I was performing. Because what you're really doing here is you are bouncing between self-control and self-rebellion. And it's all still you, right? These are all different elements of you. They're just the parts that you haven't learned how to integrate together. So let's talk about this identity we have where I'm just a rebel. Right? I can't tell you how many people have said to me, but Anna, I've always been a rebel. It is just who I am. All right, those are the words. But I ask, okay, but is it true? Is it a personality trait? Or is it just the way you've ever really been able to access a version of yourself who felt free, right, when you're not working? And deeper still, here's another question. Where else do you rebel? Do you rebel at work? In your home life with your spouse? Do you rebel with your goals? Or is drinking, if not the one place, but the main place, right? The main place in your life where rebellion gets to come out. It's where you really get to let your hair down and maybe feel young again, maybe feel free again, especially if you're getting a little older. I can empathize with that. This is what I used to do. Right, I used to let my hair down and go a bit wild when it came to the wine, right? Because if this identity, the identity of I'm just a rebel, is how you cope with pressure, then I'm going to offer that is not freedom that you are achieving there when you say, I feel free when I'm drinking. It's a coping mechanism. And it might be time to stop wearing it like a badge of honor and instead start asking, what is the rebel in me trying to protect me from? If you are stuck in this rebel loop, I want you to hear this clearly. Willpower is not your solution. I talk about this a lot. Willpower isn't the solution. But if you're a rebellious type of person, you may find that you are sort of waxing and waning between just really trying to just suck it up and be good, or then rebel, right? You cannot white knuckle your way out of a pattern that is built on pressure and that is built on perfection. And you cannot outrun your own expectations by creating even more rules. You have these rules and they don't feel enough. So you create even more rules because eventually you're going to rebel against those rules too. If you rebel against one set of rules, guess what? You're going to rebel against your other ones. Now listen, avoidance doesn't work either. And you can try to distract yourself from this element of your personality as you see it. You can try to pretend that you're over it. You're not going to do that anymore. But if you are still holding parts of yourself hostage, right, this part of you that just likes to drink and let her hair down, the rebel is going to come for those situations every time. And here is why off limits, right, that's off limits. I can't do that, mustn't do that, shouldn't drink, all those things, why it feels even more tempting. You try to be quote unquote good. You follow the plan. You stay strong. But if what you really want starts to feel off limits, it becomes magnetic. I mean, think about it, right? Think about probably when you were younger, there was someone that you fancied, some guy, and you think, oh, he was just the best. And if he didn't show you any attention, and it sort of, he became even more interesting, right? And that's all created by ourselves. Now listen, your brain just doesn't register no wine tonight as a decision. That's what starts to happen, right? It registers, this is restrictive. It registers, I'm going to be missing out. It registers deprivation. It registers a rule that you're not allowed to break. And suddenly that glass of wine becomes the forbidden fruit. Not because you need it, but because it feels like you shouldn't have it. And then we start saying things like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I putting myself through all this grief? Why don't I just have the drink? I'm a grown-up. Why don't I just have the drink? And this is the rebel response in action. And it's why rules normally backfire. Because the more off-limits something feels, the more tempting it becomes. So here's what I want you to try instead. I want you to firstly start questioning the expectations on yourself that you've absorbed. Who are you trying to impress? What version of perfect are you still trying to live up to? That might show that is a huge question, right? You want to look at that in your private life, in your work life, in your family life, all the areas of your life. Second, I want you to start noticing the rules you have set, especially the ones that feel righteous or extreme. Things like, I'll never drink again. I need to prove I can handle this. I'm being good now. right? These are just pressure in disguise. Think how motivated you feel when you're thinking these thoughts. And then thirdly, I want you to start prioritizing your own opinion of yourself, not your friends, not your spouses, not your mums, not your bosses, yours. Who are you? How do you see yourself? How do you want to see yourself? This, my friend, is the work. You do not need a set of new rules. You need a new relationship with yourself. One where you don't have to rebel just to feel free. You are not two different people. You do not need to keep choosing between perfection and rebellion. You just need to stop hiding the parts of you that are loud, bold, angry, playful. Why do you need to stop seeing them as bad or irresponsible or too much, and instead start asking, what are they trying to tell me? How can I integrate this into who I am? And when you do that, when you integrate the rebel instead of shutting her down, everything changes. You won't need to drink to feel like yourself anymore because you'll already feel free. If this episode stirred something in you, if you're realizing you've been rebelling against yourself, against your own rules, and you've been calling it, that's who I am, that's my personality, this is the work we do inside private one-on-one coaching. Really, this is not some insurmountable problem. Maybe you're just ready to stop pretending. And when you do this, you're ready to feel like you again. We can get that version of you back and create an even better incarnation. If that's what you want, when you're ready for that, book a free discovery call with me. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on the book a call. I will walk this through with you and I will show you from where you are, how you get to where you want to be. And guess what? It's huge fun. And you will no longer need to rebel against who you are. All right, I'll see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the back seat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.